The rebel fleet that assaulted the first Death Star was composed primarily of X-Wings and Y-Wings. The X-Wings were meant to escort the Y-Wings to the thermal exhaust port so the light bombers could destroy the station. The X-Wings made up Red Squadron, and the Y-Wings made up Gold Squadron. Gold Squadron was led by a skilled pilot called John Vander, nicknamed Dutch. Dutch was born and raised on Onderon. Onderon is an inner rim planet that had its own rebellion during the Clone Wars. A resistance group took shape with the help of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and Ahsoka Tano. It was led by the Guerrera siblings, Steela and Saw. As Dutch came of age, the planet was still damaged by the years of ongoing internal conflict. Dutch enlisted in the Imperial Academy and went through flight training. After becoming a pilot, he was sent back to Onderon to end this pocket of rebellion. The rebellion was now solely led by Saw Gerrera, whose tactics had become increasingly extreme since the loss of his sister. Dutch was ordered to bomb parts of his home planet said to have sympathy for the rebellion. Not necessarily the active insurgents themselves, but like-minded civilians. Dutch saw how horrible the Empire's actions were. He started to understand why Gerrera's partisans had been fighting over tyrannical control for so long. Dutch went AWOL from the Imperial Navy and joined the rebellion. Dutch's switching of allegiances came at a crucial time for the rebellion. He became a key member of the Massassi cell led by Jan Dodonna. Dutch's skills quickly earned him a spot as Gold Leader. Gold Squadron hit soft Imperial targets and helped escort rebel convoys. When Senator Mon Mothma was branded a traitor by the Empire, Dutch was at the front of the escort helping her flee from Chandrila to Dantooine, where she would make a galaxy-wide proclamation across the HoloNet renouncing the Empire and calling the citizens of the galaxy to action against this tyrannical regime. This declaration would be what brought all the rebel cells together into the Alliance to Restore the Republic, more commonly known as the Rebel Alliance. During the escort of Mon Mothma, Dutch linked up with a small part of Phoenix Cell, known as the Spectres. The Spectres were led by Hera Syndulla. Dutch didn't get along with most of the Spectres. Ezra, Zeb, and even the droid Chopper all seemed to have some issue with Dutch. Despite this, Dutch allowed Ezra to pilot Gold 2 when the original pilot was wounded. The Y-Wings disabled and bombed an Imperial command ship, giving Mothma and her crew time to flee. As the small band of rebels fled, the brilliant Imperial tactician Grand Admiral Thrawn intercepted them. He was using advanced TIE defenders. Thrawn's fleet destroyed all of Gold Squadron except for Gold 1 and Gold 2. Syndulla's ship, the Ghost, which not only carried the remaining Spectres, but now Mothma as well, was being captured by a Star Destroyer. Dutch and Ezra fired proton torpedoes into a gas nebula, causing a massive explosion. The remaining rebels fled under the cover of this explosion. Upon returning to Yavin 4, Dutch was debriefed by General Jan Dodonna. When Admiral Raddus called for pilots to back up a small contingent of rebels who defied orders and went to an Imperial installation on Scarif, Dutch and his faithful droid, R2-BHD, led the newly populated Gold Squadron back into action. The battle over Scarif involved most of the rebel fleet. Losses were severe. Dutch had Gold Squadron performing strafing runs on the planet-wide shields, but they weren't effective. They were losing pilots quickly when Raddus redirected Gold Squadron to attack nearby Star Destroyers instead. They had much more luck against the Star Destroyers that were still getting up to speed with the surprise rebel attack. He and 3 wingmates disabled the Star Destroyer Persecutor, creating an opening for an Alliance Hammerhead corvette called the Lightmaker to ram the Star Destroyer and push it through the planetary shield, overwhelming and disabling it. Despite the high number of Alliance casualties, the Battle of Scarif was a success. The rebellion stole plans for the Empire's ultimate weapon, the Death Star. By the time Dutch returned to the Massassi group, he was considered a quadruple ace, meaning he had at least 22 confirmed kills and 19,997 hours of flight time. I have no idea why that number specifically. I checked the HoloNet and was only able to find that 19,997 BBY was a great area of expansion for the Republic in some legends, and kinda close, the Earth year 1997 is said by many as a resurgence and escalation in the popularity of the Star Wars saga. Either way, the plans liberated from Scarif took some time to make it back to Rebel HQ due to Imperial interference. That story is well covered, so we'll jump ahead to Dutch's role in the assault on the first Death Star. More pilots were found to fill the slots in Gold Squadron, bringing them back up to 8 members. Dutch took the lead and had Gold 5, piloted by Davish Pops Krail, and Gold 2, piloted by Dex Tyree, fly into the Death Star's Meridian Trench at an attempt to bomb the thermal exhaust port. The heavy turbolaser batteries on the Death Star rained fire on the trio of Y-wings. Dutch ordered his pilots to put all the deflector shield power to the front. This helped against the turrets, but left them completely vulnerable from behind. Darth Vader in his custom TIE Advance X-1 shot down Tyree first. Dutch began to panic. Given the confines of the trench, he couldn't maneuver. Krail tried to keep his leader calm and focused, but Vader eliminated Dutch and then Krail in rapid succession. The Rebel Alliance would ultimately succeed. Gold 3, piloted by Yavin Verlaine, was the only member of Gold Squadron to make it out of the battle alive. John Dutch Vander was a skilled pilot who did his duty. His work with the Rebel Alliance helped at several key junctures. We can forgive his loss of composure at the end, as he and his allies faced down nearly impossible odds. Check out this transmission next for more pilots.